Welcome back to the Gridiron Expert. Florida State football is back. After a few rough seasons, Mike Norvell finally broke through with the Seminoles last year, going 10-3 with a thrilling bowl victory over Oklahoma. The Seminoles now come in at number 5 in our way too early Gridiron Expert Top 25. Yes, we believe the Seminoles are that good. Florida State will be one of the best teams, not just in the ACC, but in the country. And today, we're taking a look at their schedule, see if they can run the table in the conference and maybe contend for a spot in the college football playoff. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad that you could join us today. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below, including our expert picks and everything we have over on our website, thegridironexpert.com. Because, guys, here at the Gridiron Expert, football never dies. The college football season never ends. It's ongoing, 24/7, 365. We're here talking college football with you, and we want you to take advantage of that and become a part of our GE Nation. Become a part of what we're building here, one of the largest college football communities here on YouTube. So let's take a look at Florida State. Again, 10-3 last year, broke through with Mike Norvell, had a handful of big-time quality victories. Now you add into 2023, 7 starters are projected back on offense, including their star quarterback in Jordan Travis. They're expected to return almost everybody on defense, almost everybody, a few key losses, but about 9 starters back defensively. They're loaded with depth, they're loaded with talent and experience, and they have a really, really good schedule. You take a look at what Florida State's going up against this year. The first thing that I notice on this full schedule is that there really isn't a key stretch for Florida State. You know, all the other top 25 teams we've been breaking down with these schedule previews, we go, okay, here's a 3 or 4 game stretch that will define their season. And you can make an argument that there's one. We'll get to it in a second. But for me, Florida State's schedule really comes down to a couple of games. A few games that will make or break whether the season can be really special for the Seminoles or whether they're going to fall a little short. And really one of their biggest games of the year is right off the bat in week 1 in Orlando when they take on LSU. This has the makings of a potential top 10 matchup to start 2023. We could see a top 10 matchup between LSU and Florida State to start 2023. Florida State, a 10-win team. LSU was a 10-win team last year. They won the SEC West last year. They return almost everybody offensively. Florida State returns almost everybody defensively. Both return their star quarterbacks. It's going to be a fantastic matchup, one that could be just as good, if not better, than the one we saw last year with Florida State won 24-23 in New Orleans. Wild, wild game where LSU scored right at the end of the game, and Florida State blocked the PAT. Unreal ending. So now the game is kind of in Florida State's backyard. This is going to be a great kind of measuring stick, right? Because LSU has high expectations. They're going to be even better than they were last year. Same could be said for Florida State. This will be a great opportunity for them to get a huge resume-boosting victory and really to see what this team is made of. Can they beat LSU for the second year in a row? Can they notch a potential top 10 win on their resume in week 1 and show, hey, we are legitimate playoff contenders? That's going to be the case for both teams. So a huge game in week 1 that's going to set the tone for the rest of the year. Southern Miss shouldn't be a big deal. Boston College probably will not be a big deal. Florida State won that game by 30 last year over the Eagles, and Boston College loses a lot of talent from last year's squad that really wasn't all that good. They then go on the road to Clemson. That's another big game on their schedule. There's about 3 games that I think are the biggest games on Florida State's schedule, and they have to face 2 of them in a 4-week period. LSU's 1, Clemson is 2, and there's one more we'll talk about in a second. But Clemson, on the road in Death Valley, obviously a very difficult place to play, could be the first of 2 meetings between these programs because, again, the ACC has gotten rid of divisions. They're going to take the top 2 teams that will go to the ACC championship game. So we could see Florida State and Clemson face off again in the ACC championship game, but obviously you don't want to lose this game. You don't want to put yourself in a bad position where someone else could jump you, where you don't own the tiebreaker over Clemson if it came to that. Florida State needs this win over the Tigers, and they missed an opportunity last year where they fell to the Tigers 34-28 in Tallahassee. 6-point loss to the Tigers last year in Tallahassee. Now Clemson, major questions, right? How good will Cade Klubnik be? How quickly can Garrett Riley develop him? Clemson bounced back last year by winning the ACC, but still missed out on the playoff. Still have a couple questions on both sides of the ball, and it'll be interesting to see how Klubnik faces off against this very stingy and talented Florida State defense. But obviously the Death Valley factor, having to play on the road early September or late September early in the year, it's going to be very interesting to see how these two teams face off. But this is a great measuring stick as well, and the first big conference game of Florida State season, and arguably the biggest conference game of Florida State season. They have to do it in week 4. So the month of September, not going to be easy. I mean, LSU and Clemson, both huge. And guys, there's a possibility that Florida State, with all these high expectations, could be 2-2 heading into their bye week. Obviously, that's not ideal. Obviously, I don't know or think that will be the case. We're going to predict Florida State's schedule and record here in a couple months, so stay tuned for that. But there is a legitimate possibility that Florida State loses to LSU, loses to Clemson. They're 2-2, and playoff hopes are done. ACC title hopes not done, but the high expectations have vanished. There's a possibility of that. Florida State, to keep those hopes alive, probably need to find themselves at 3-1 or 4-0 heading into their early bye week. The Virginia Tech game probably will not be too daunting for Florida State. They get to host that game off a bye. Virginia Tech still dealing with the major rebuild under Brent Pry. They take on a Syracuse team who, yes, went bowling last year, but Florida State won 38-3. Shouldn't be much of an issue there. If you want to make the case of a key stretch for Florida State, I think it begins on October 21st against Duke and ends on November 11th against Miami. 4 games there right in the middle of the schedule. They have a couple tricky games. Duke will not be easy. Riley Leonard was fantastic at quarterback last year. Mike Elko did a phenomenal job with the Blue Devils in year 1. So can't overlook Duke, even though the game will be at home. At Wake Forest, Winston-Salem, not necessarily going to be an easy place to play by any means, but Wake Forest will not have Sam Hartman anymore at quarterback. Florida State lost to the Demon Deacons 31-21 in Tallahassee last year. Kind of a shock and a disappointing performance to the Demon Deacons. But again, Wake Forest going through some changes as well. Maybe Florida State can now return the favor. On the road at Pittsburgh, they did not play the Panthers last year. Always a dangerous, sneaky team under Pat Narduzzi, but I think many would project Florida State to be favored over the Panthers in this game, and what could be a relatively low-scoring defensive battle. And then, of course, Miami. Big-time rivalry game. We're expecting Miami to bounce back a little bit in year 2 under Mario Cristobal. Florida State did beat the Hurricanes 45-3 last year. 45-3 last year. But again, we expect the game would be a little bit closer. Florida State, though, does get to host the game in Tallahassee. So if you want to make the argument that there's a 4-game key stretch for Florida State, it would come from October 21st to November 11th. But I will say that I think Florida State lives up to expectations. The Seminoles would be favored in all 4 of those games. They just have to be mindful not to get upset, not to overlook any of those opponents. North Alabama, no issue there. The 3rd biggest game on the schedule comes on the road at Florida. The Gators obviously were a major disappointment last year. Did not really live up to expectations in year 1 under Billy Napier, especially with the way they started the year. But now, Graham Mertz and from Wisconsin and a quarterback. They have a quarterback battle going on in Gainesville. The Swamp, by no means an easy place to play. People get up for rivalry week. They get up to play their rivals. Florida did that last year in Tallahassee. Only lost 45-38. So Seminoles got the win. It's closer than some expected. Can't afford to overlook the Gators in the Swamp, especially if Florida State is in college football playoff discussion or anything like that. Gators would love to play spoiler. So again, I think the 3 biggest games on Florida State's schedule are against LSU, Clemson, and Florida. Funny how 2 of those are non-conference games. 1 is a conference game. So the biggest conference game is Clemson. I feel like the hopes for Florida State to make the ACC championship game kind of ride on that Clemson game. And again, it could be the first of 2 meetings between the Seminoles and the Tigers. But guys, the talent is there. The talent is there. Mike Norvell is building something in Tallahassee. We saw them finally break through last year. I think they're only going to continue to build. So much talent coming back, so much experience coming back, a lot of momentum to carrying over into this year. The schedule really is pretty favorable with the exception of a handful of games. And if Florida State can navigate those, maybe going 3-0 or 2-1 in the games we mentioned, watch out. This could be a team that is playing for a national championship. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. So much exclusive content there for you guys to help you get through this offseason because, again, here at the Gridiron Expert, football never dies. The season never, ever ends, and we do want you to become a part of our GE Nation. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.